Some habits are so small you would never notice them, and yet they quietly shape an entire way of living. In Korea, a handful of everyday routines add up to a life that simply feels lighter. Here are 14 Korean habits that make everyday life feel effortless. First, you change into home clothes the moment you walk in. The instant they step through the door, Koreans swap their outside clothes for comfortable indoor ones, a clear little ritual that separates the busy outside world from the calm of home. It keeps street dust and germs off the sofa and the bed, and it sends a quiet signal to your own brain that the day's running around is finally over. That simple change of clothes becomes a tiny daily border crossing, and the moment you step over it, you actually start to relax. Home stops being just a place you happen to be and becomes a place you genuinely rest. It is a 2-minute habit that quietly draws a firm line between work and peace. Second, the bedding gets folded away and the room aired each morning. In many Korean homes, the bedding is light enough to fold up and tuck aside after waking, opening the whole room back up for the day, with the windows thrown open to let fresh air sweep through. The bedroom is not frozen as a place for sleeping only. It quietly becomes usable space again every single morning. That small act of resetting the room, of not letting yesterday's sleep linger in the air, makes the home feel fresh and intentional rather than stale. It starts each day with a quiet sense of order, and there is something genuinely clearing about opening the windows and folding the night away before the day begins. Third, breakfast is warm and savory, not sweet. The traditional Korean morning meal is rice, soup, and a few side dishes, a proper, balanced, savory start rather than something sugary grabbed on the run. It steadies your energy through the morning instead of spiking it and letting it crash an hour later. Beginning the day with real, warm food, the same kind you might eat at any other meal, quietly sets a tone of being properly cared for and fueled, rather than merely topped up with sugar. It treats breakfast as a genuine meal worth sitting down for, not an afterthought eaten standing at the counter, and your body feels the steadiness of that choice all the way to lunch. Fourth, you drink roasted grain tea instead of plain water. In countless Korean homes, the everyday drink is roasted barley or corn tea, brewed in a big pot and kept on hand all day, warm in winter and cool in summer. It is gentle, soothing, caffeine-free, and faintly nutty, and it quietly turns the simple act of staying hydrated into something a little more comforting. Rather than reaching for sugary drinks or flat tap water, you sip something with a touch of warmth and flavor all day long. It is a small, steady habit that makes ordinary hydration feel like a quiet, pleasant ritual, and it keeps a whole household drinking enough without anyone really trying. Fifth, looking after your health is a daily ritual, not an emergency. Koreans broadly fold small wellness habits into ordinary life, a daily tonic, a supplement, a health drink, taken steadily rather than only when something has already gone wrong. Health is treated as something you quietly maintain in the background, day after day, like watering a plant, instead of a crisis you scramble to fix once it breaks. That patient, preventive mindset takes the panic out of staying well. You are not waiting to feel terrible before you act. You are simply, consistently, looking after yourself a little bit every single day. Over the years, those small, steady deposits quietly add up to a real difference in how you feel. Sixth, snacks and food get shared constantly. In Korean offices, classrooms, and homes, sharing food is almost reflexive. Someone brings treats, someone passes them around, and nobody eats alone in a corner. That small, steady current of generosity quietly knits people together throughout the day. A shared tangerine, a handful of snacks, a coffee bought for the group. These little exchanges build warmth and connection without anyone making a big deal of it. It means the people around you are constantly, gently looking out for you, and you for them, turning ordinary workdays into something a little more human and a lot less lonely. Seventh, people treat each other in rounds rather than splitting every bill. Instead of carefully dividing every single check down to the last coin, Koreans will often simply take turns. You pay this time, I will get the next one. It quietly removes the awkward, slightly cold ritual of calculating who owes what after a nice meal together. The assumption is that you will see each other again, that the favor will come back around, and that small leap of trust makes friendship feel generous rather than transactional. Over time, it all evens out. And in the meantime, nobody is hunched over a calculator at the end of a warm evening. It treats friendship as a long game, not a running tab to be settled. Eighth, you address people by their role, not just their name. Korean has a rich set of respectful titles for elders, for colleagues, for people just a little older than you, and they are used constantly in place of bare first names. It quietly builds a sense of relationship and respect into every single interaction. Rather than flattening everyone into the same flat, casual register, the language gently acknowledges who people are to one another. It sounds formal from the outside, but in practice it makes daily exchanges feel considered and warm, a small, constant reminder that the person in front of you has a place and is worth a little courtesy. That built-in respect quietly lowers the friction in countless everyday encounters. Ninth, meals begin and end with a quiet word of thanks. Before eating, many Koreans say a short phrase that means roughly, "I will eat well," and afterward, one that means "I ate well," a small bracket of gratitude around the meal. It takes 2 seconds and costs nothing, but it quietly transforms eating from mindless refueling into a moment of genuine appreciation. You pause, however briefly, to be thankful for the food and for whoever provided it. That tiny ritual, repeated at meal after meal, keeps a thread of gratitude running quietly through ordinary days, and it makes even a simple bowl of rice feel like something to be glad for. Gratitude, practiced in such small doses so often, becomes less a thought and more a way of moving through the world. 10th, a night out moves in stages. A Korean evening with friends often unfolds in clear rounds. Dinner at the first place, then on to a cafe or a second spot, maybe somewhere else after that, each stage with its own mood and rhythm. It quietly stretches an ordinary night into a proper, satisfying arc rather than a single rushed meal. Moving from place to place keeps the energy fresh and gives everyone time to actually talk, unwind, and enjoy each other's company without ever feeling hurried out the door. It treats time with friends as something worth lingering over, building an evening up in chapters instead of squeezing it into a single sitting. And people leave feeling they truly spent time together, not just shared a table. 11th, people buy together to live better for less. Group buying is woven into Korean daily life. Neighbors, co-workers, and online communities pooling their orders to get better prices on everything from groceries to gadgets. It quietly turns the simple act of shopping into something cooperative rather than solitary. Instead of each person paying full price alone, a little coordination means everyone saves, and small communities quietly form around looking out for one another's wallets. It is a sensible little habit of strength in numbers, and it makes the ordinary business of getting what you need feel a bit smarter and a bit more connected. The savings are nice, but the quiet sense of being in it together is what really lingers. 12th, walking is simply built into the day. Because Korean life leans so heavily on dense neighborhoods and excellent public transit, people naturally walk a great deal, to the station, between transfers, around the corner for an errand. Exercise is not a separate chore you have to schedule and dread. It is quietly stitched into the act of getting from one place to another. Without ever setting foot in a gym, people rack up real movement every single day just by living their normal lives. That incidental, effortless activity keeps people healthier without anyone having to think about it, turning the daily commute itself into a quiet, ongoing workout. The healthiest habit, it turns out, is the one you never have to remember to do. 13th, you carry your own trash until you find the right place for it. Korea has surprisingly few public bins, and rather than littering, people simply hold on to their rubbish, a wrapper, a cup, a tissue, until they get home or reach a proper place to sort it. It sounds like a small inconvenience, but it quietly builds a deep sense of personal responsibility for your own mess. The streets stay remarkably clean, not because an army of workers is constantly cleaning up after everyone, but because almost nobody expects to leave their trash for somebody else to deal with. That small habit of carrying your own waste keeps the shared spaces clean for all, and it quietly says that the city belongs to everyone, so everyone tends it. 14th, people think in terms of we, not just me. Korean speech is full of the word our house, our company, our country, where many other languages would simply say my. It is a tiny linguistic habit, but it quietly reflects and reinforces a whole way of seeing the world, as something shared rather than owned alone. That instinct toward the collective shows up everywhere, in the clean streets, the shared food, the constant looking out for one another. It gently reminds people, all day long, that they belong to something larger than themselves, and that quiet sense of belonging takes some of the weight of life off any single set of shoulders. When the world is ours rather than only mine, you never carry it entirely alone. Look at all 14 together and notice what they share. Not one of them is dramatic or difficult. Changing your clothes, sharing a snack, saying a word of thanks, carrying your own cup. Each is almost nothing on its own. But repeated every day, they quietly build a life that feels lighter, warmer, and more connected, without anyone straining to make it so. That is the real lesson hiding in these small Korean habits. A life does not feel effortless because the big things are easy. It feels effortless because 1,000 tiny things have quietly been gotten right and woven so deeply into each day that you stop noticing them at all.